inflation. Let's take you now to the White House.
That we have to face. We've made historic progress over the last 10 months. Unemployment is down to 4.6%, 2 years faster than everyone expected. When we started this job, it was over 14%. Wages are rising. Disposable income is up. More people are starting small businesses than ever before. And our economy has created a record 5.6 million jobs since I became president on January 20th. There's a lot we can be proud of and a lot we can build on for the future. But we still face challenges in our economy. Disruptions related to the pandemic have caused challenges in our supply chain, which have sparked concern about shortages and contributed to higher prices. Moms and dads are worried, asking, will there be enough food we can afford to buy for the holidays? Will we be able to get Christmas presents to the kids on time? And if so, will they cost me an arm and a leg? I told you before that we're going to take action on these problems. That's exactly what we're doing. It starts with my Port Action Plan, a proactive 3-month effort to invest in our ports and relieve bottlenecks. 40% of the goods, for example, that come into this country on the West Coast come through 2 ports, Los Angeles and Long Beach. To help ease the congestion at these ports, I brought together labor and management and asked them to step up and cooperate, to move from operating the ports at 40 hours a week at those ports to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I provided the resources to other key ports, including Savannah, Georgia, and on the East Coast, and to help reduce congestion and undo damage caused by COVID. We also met with the CEOs of Walmart, Target, Home Depot, TJ Maxx, and others. Those retailers, large retailers, and others agreed to move products more quickly, stock their shelves more quickly. And by the way, you may have heard the CEO of Walmart yesterday on the steps we've taken. He said, and I quote, "The combination of private enterprise and government working together has been really successful." He went on to say, all the way through the supply chain, there's a lot of innovation. Because of the actions we've taken, things have begun to change. End of quote. In the past 3 weeks, the number of containers sitting on docks blocking movement are down by 33%. Shipping prices are down 25%. More goods are moving more quickly and more cheaply out of our ports, onto your doorsteps and onto store shelves. And so all these concerns a few weeks ago, there'd not be ample food available for Thanksgiving. So many people talked about that, understandably. But families can rest easy. Grocery stores are well stocked with turkey and everything else you need for Thanksgiving. And the major retailers I mentioned have confirmed that their shelves will be well stocked in stores this holiday season. And that's good news for those moms and dads who are worried about whether the Christmas gifts will be available. It goes for everything from bicycles to ice skates. You know, today, though, I want to address another challenge that families are facing, and the one I think they're most focused on right now: high gas prices. This is a problem, not just here in the United States, but around the world. The price of gasoline has reached record levels recently in Europe and in Asia. In France, at the end of last month, it reached about $7 per gallon. In Japan, it's about $5.50 per gallon, the highest it's been in years. Of course, it's always painful when gas prices spike. Today, the price of gas in America, on average, is $3.40 a gallon. In California, it's much higher. The impact is real. But the fact is, we faced even worse spikes before. Just in the last decade, we saw it in 2012 when the price of gasoline hit $3.90. We saw it in 2014 when it hit $3.69. And as recently as 2019, we saw it surpass $3 in many places. The fact is, we always get through those spikes, but we're going to get through this one as well, and hopefully faster. But it doesn't mean we should just stand by idly and wait for prices to drop on their own. Instead, we're taking action. The big part of the reason Americans are facing high gas prices is because oil-producing countries and large companies have not ramped up the supply of oil quickly enough to meet the demand. And the smaller supply means higher prices globally for oil. To address these issues, I got on the phone with leaders from other countries grappling with this challenge to try to find ways to lower oil prices and ultimately to the price you pay at the pump. So today I'm announcing that the largest ever release from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve to help provide the supply we need as we recover from this pandemic. In addition, I brought together other nations to contribute to the solution. India, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the United Kingdom have agreed to release additional oil from their reserves, and China may do more as well. This coordinated action will help us deal with the lack of supply, which in turn helps ease prices. The bottom line, today we're launching a major effort to moderate the price of oil, an effort that will span the globe in its reach and ultimately reach your corner gas station, God willing. I've worked hard these past few weeks on calls and meetings with foreign leaders, policymakers, to put together the building blocks for today's global announcement. And while our combined actions will not solve the problem of high gas prices overnight, it will make a difference. It will take time, but before long, you should see the price of gas drop where you fill up your tank. And in the longer term, we will reduce our reliance on oil as we shift to clean energy. But right now, I will do what needs to be done to reduce the price you pay at the pump. From the middle class and working families that are spending much too much, and it's a strain, and you're the reason I was sent here to look out for you. There's another issue that I will be addressing as well, because the fact is the price of oil was already dropping prior to this announcement, and many suggest in anticipation of the announcement. The price of gasoline in the wholesale market has fallen by about 10% over the last few weeks, but the price of the pump hasn't budged a penny. In other words, gas supply companies are paying less and making a lot more. And they do not seem to be passing that on to the consumers at the pump. In fact, if the gap between wholesale and retail gas prices was in line with past averages, Americans would be paying at least 25 cents less per gallon right now, as I speak. Instead, companies are pocketing the difference as profit. That's unacceptable. And that's why I've asked the Federal Trade Commission to consider whether potentially illegal and anti-competitive behavior in the oil and gas industry is causing higher prices for consumers, so we can assure the American people are paying a fair price for their gasoline. I also want to briefly address one myth about inflated gas prices. They're not due to environmental measures. My effort to combat climate change is not raising the price of gas or increasing its availability. What it's doing, it's increasing the availability of jobs. Jobs building electric cars like the one I drove at the GM factory in Detroit last week. For the hundreds of thousands of folks who brought one of those electric cars, they're going to save $800 to $1,000 in fuel costs this year. And we're going to put those savings within reach of more Americans and create jobs installing solar panels, batteries, electric heat pumps, jobs making those clean power generating devices. And by the way, deploying these technologies for each home where they're installed is going to save folks an additional hundreds of dollars in energy costs every year. Let's do that. Let's beat climate change with more extensive innovation and opportunities. We can make our economy and consumers less vulnerable to these sorts of price spikes when we do that. And finally, even as we meet to work out this challenge, it's important to maintain perspective about where our economy stands today. The fact is, America has a lot to be proud of. We're experiencing the strongest economic recovery in the world. Even after accounting for inflation, our economy is bigger, and our families have more money in their pockets than they did before the pandemic. And America is the only major economy in the world that can say that. It's testament to the grit and determination of the American people, as well as our unique approach to this recovery and our focus on rebuilding our economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not the top down. Because of that approach, we're the only leading economy in the world where household income and the economy as a whole are stronger than they were before the pandemic hit. Let me close with this. This Thanksgiving, we have so much to be grateful for. Vaccines that are effective, safe, and free. promising new treatments, providing for hope that we can bring an end to the worst tragedies of this crisis. Record job growth, the strongest recovery in the world, and most of all, the chance to be together again with the people we love on Thanksgiving. As you gather together with your family this Thanksgiving, I want you to know how grateful I am to serve as your president. And I promised you that I'll never stop working to address your family's needs. And together we're going to confront challenges that we face them, are going to face them honestly. And that we'll keep building this economy around hardworking folks who built this country. Happy Thanksgiving, God bless you, and may God protect our troops. And I'm heading to a food kitchen to serve meals right now. Thank you for your time and effort. And I'll have plenty of time to talk to you later. Thank you. Thank you.
President Biden taking no questions as he leaves the room, offering an assessment of the economy and noting that unemployment is down, wages rising, as he says, more small businesses, but also honing in on this issue of inflation, which is dogging his presidency right now. I want to bring in CNBC anchor and senior national correspondent Brian Sullivan. Brian, the president, as expected, announced this large release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, but he added this wrinkle, and that is he's enlisting other major countries to do the same. What power does that give him to try to lower prices at the pump?
Yeah, thanks, Lester. It gives him two pieces of power. Number one, it gives him more firepower by releasing more oil. Japan, South Korea, India, the UK coming in with small measures, but it's enough. But it's also political power, Lester, because this is also really a shot across the bow at OPEC, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the other major oil-producing nations that he referred to and alluded, saying they're not doing their fair share. We still buy a lot of oil from them. You can see the price of gasoline in California is nearing $5. You know, history is littered with the wasteland of political careers on the back of higher energy prices, Lester. You know that as well. So what this gives the president is hopefully more firepower domestically by adding to the flow of oil that will ultimately trickle down to the gas station on the corner, as the president said, and also politically sending a message to OPEC saying, you've got your group, we have got our group, and the U.S. is not going about this alone globally.
Notably, he mentioned getting the FTC involved, suggesting that oil producers are seeing prices being lowered, but pocketing that, and it's not going to the consumer at the pump. This is a pretty aggressive approach, isn't it?
It is a very aggressive approach, and it is not one that we have seen any time in history, or at least in recent memory, Lester. And whether or not they're going to go after the big oil companies, the Chevrons, the Exxons of the world, or it's more the wholesale distributor all the way down to the local gas station, is still kind of unclear. This is the beginning of the Federal Trade Commission investigation into this. Now, if you look at the spread between gasoline and oil, because that's the kind of stuff that we do every day on CNBC, Lester, there isn't that much of a gap, but you can go back to any time period and say, who's making more money here? The reality is this. It all comes down to what your viewers are paying at the corner gas station. By the way, there are other tools perhaps out there. You could have a gas tax holiday perhaps, and in California, they use their own blend of gasoline. That's one of the reasons California has higher prices. So if this does not work ahead of the holidays, which is key, Lester, there may be some other tools that either the federal government or state governments can use to try to bring that price down. The average driver spending about $1,000 a year on gasoline. Finally, this, Lester, it's not just gasoline. It is natural gas, which is 1/3 of our heat. Prices have doubled in a year. So there's going to be a lot of sticker shock if the weather gets cold and you crank that heat. We could see heating bills go up 20 and 30% as well, Lester.
All right, our thanks to our friend Brian Sullivan at CNBC. Brian, good to have you on. I want to go to NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, going into the president's remarks, there was a lot of suggestion that he can't really do much about prices, certainly beyond fuel prices, and that this was largely political. On that end, does this give him some breathing room potentially?
Exactly, Lester. The president was under a lot of political pressure to do something when it comes to this soaring inflation and the high prices at the pump. But the president himself was the one a couple of weeks and months ago who said he couldn't really predict when this was going to get better, just as the country continues to recover from the pandemic and what we're seeing. But clearly this did reach a boiling point where the White House felt the president did need to take this step and take this action. And it's one he acknowledged many families are feeling this week, the pinch, not just at the pump, but also when it comes to groceries, when it comes to everything ahead of the holiday season. And the president was very clear to say none of this is going to be solved overnight. And that also is because, yes, the approval ratings he has seen lower and dip throughout his presidency when it comes to issues of the economy. This isn't something that is going to be resolved in the immediate. And you already have some Republican critics who continue to talk about the White House needing to do more, but even some Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin saying this is just a Band-Aid solution. So that's the context and the backdrop of all of this. The president, the White House working on this for months, but saying they wanted to get out ahead of it, ahead of the holidays. And the president also using this to try to talk about his legislation, which is still tied up in Congress, which he argues would help bring down the costs for Americans on other expenses like child care, health care, elder care. And then also there are some climate provision, things like taxes for electric vehicles that he argues would also be helpful. But again, that still faces a very uphill climb in the Senate. And notably also there, Lester, the president not ruling out additional action, the White House saying he'll continue to be engaged with his international partners on this, and that if more is needed, he will take that and likely could do that in the coming weeks if that's warranted.
Monica Alba at the White House, thank you. That concludes our coverage of President Biden's remarks. We'll have much more tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Good day, everyone.
Airport. Those are the